So is that why the defense industry becomes interested in these kinds of technologies? Again, sort of for those who are listening who don't know that much about the defense industry and this whole underwater site is new, why so much investment?
It's a big question, but if you look at the macro factors here, less people are joining the military. It's harder to recruit. They're missing their numbers. You'd rather lose 1,000 robots than one human. From a public relations perspective, you can lose an infinite number of robots, but if you lose a person, that gets on the front page and has more of an emotional tie to it. And there are just a lot of reasons why we want robots on the front line, both from a defensive and offensive perspective, because some of these are just very dangerous jobs that people shouldn't be doing, and robots can do them 24/7. They can do them, you
Yeah,
know,
and
all,
like extreme colds, I would imagine, like extreme cold, extreme depth, extreme like, and for longer periods of time, you know.
yeah, exactly. So like the economics of, Waymo doing, delivering pizza, with that being a $300,000 car, it's hard to see how Waymo is going to break even, and it's hard to see, when they're going to become profitable. But, underwater, to get a commercial diver underwater, it's like minimum 100 grand. And so replacing these types of roles, can become quite profitable, and really makes sense from an economic perspective that you can save a lot of money having, a robot do it. And you don't need the same type of insurance. You don't need the same type of team infrastructure. And so there's just a lot of opportunity to replace humans with robots, and
It's not even replacing because it's not like, to
augmenting.
me, it's sort of like if you're going to go to extreme depth, which is like at some ridiculous temperature, and you need to do something there that is for national safety, it's be very broad. You're not going to be able to send a person down there for multiple days. Whereas if you're
That's
sending a
right.
camera with robotic arms that can work there remotely, you're actually supplementing and expanding what's even possible using sort of humans probably either in the boat, I don't know, or on land, and going like, okay, we can now solve for a thing that we couldn't have solved without these technologies.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole topic around the economics of war that's really interesting to me. That, war today and its future is more about bleeding out budgets and governments rather than human lives. But, something that is not really well understood in the public space is that the US and somewhat the Soviet Union and Russia have had free reign over the ocean, being able, and mostly us, being able to have nuclear submarines, which are like a mobile missile silo, and it can show up 1 mile offshore without anyone knowing it's there, and do a lot of damage. And I think that's kept a lot of countries at bay. And now we have China and other countries that, have analog technology, and they're reaching the same level of capability that we are. And the goal is now to keep nuclear submarines, out of each other's waterways, but it's also to find the other person's nuclear submarine and, destroy it at a lesser cost. And we would prefer to do that with unmanned vehicles, right? And you see pipelines getting sabotaged. You understand that 99% of the world's data goes through undersea cables between continents. And when those cables were put down, there was not a whole lot of consideration how we protect them and what happens if someone can reach them and cut them. And there are all types of initiatives happening at the moment of how we use robots to, constantly inspect, survey, play defense against other nuclear submarines and find them. And, ultimately, just like we're seeing with the Houthis, like we're seeing with Ukraine, it's $100 drone taking out a $2 million tank. It's a $10,000 drone that's being taken out by a $2 million Tomahawk missile. Like these disparities have a long-term impact, and countries are constantly trying to find the arbitrage opportunity underwater, and robots are a big, a big place for that.
Being able to, I mean, see further and better, right? I mean, I feel like that in and of itself applies not just in that kind of safety and security space, but you were saying some of the scientists and figuring out sort of like what is happening to be able to predict things. If you can start measuring, then you can start predicting.
That, yeah, yeah, exactly. And seeing further and better is very important because we can't almost see anything at the moment. There are no maps. There's very little understanding of change over time. And we're seeing companies that are doing more data as a service, like Saildrone, for example, and sending larger fleets out to do mapping of the Arctic or Caribbean, handle illegal fishing. But it's not anywhere of where it needs to be at the
Right.
moment.
But that's why you're an innovator, right? I mean, that's why
Hmm.
you're trying to predict the future and see the future. I found that too, that when I try to predict the future of certain things, that I end up going like, gosh, this is amazing. Oh no, this could go wrong too. Like, and it's trying to keep yourself balanced with both. And if you want to continue to sort of keep seeing ahead, but I find this so fast. It just, it's been a little bit of time sort of thinking about outer space, and then now, you know, trying to think about this entire thing that is on Earth. Like you don't have to leave Earth, and you're trying to track and monitor and see, what's coming.